Rome wasn't built in a day, but it fell shockingly fast. For centuries, the Roman Empire seemed invincible, a byword for power and grandeur. But then, almost unbelievably, it crumbled. In 27 BCE, Augustus became Rome's first emperor, starting the Pax Romana, a 200-year golden age. By 476 CE, the Western Empire was gone. Why did it fall? Let's find out. Imagine holding a stick, 1,000 miles long, stretching across mountains, valleys, and endless plains, your arms straining to keep it steady. That's what it felt like to defend the Roman Empire at its peak, across deserts, rivers, and every kind of terrain imaginable. The empire's borders stretched for thousands of miles, a vast line that needed constant vigilance and protection. Every single mile was a potential point of attack, a place where enemies could test Rome's strength. The famed Roman legions were formidable, but even the bravest soldiers can't be everywhere at once. Gaps began to appear. The further Rome expanded, the thinner its forces were spread, with soldiers often isolated and far from reinforcements. Supplying armies across such vast distances was a monumental task. Roads, grain, weapons, and equipment had to be moved over hundreds of miles. All of this cost money that Rome increasingly struggled to find as its resources were stretched to the breaking point. Rebellions erupted in distant provinces, forcing troops to be pulled from other fronts, weakening defenses elsewhere, and leaving gaps for enemies to exploit. It was a vicious cycle Rome couldn't break. Each crisis made the next one harder to handle. Years of brutal campaigning wore down the soldiers, morale and discipline suffered, and exhaustion became the norm. The Roman army, once the symbol of might and order, was slowly ground down by endless conflict and relentless pressure. Stretched too thin, overextended and exhausted, the legions could no longer hold the line everywhere. Rome's enemies saw their chance, watching for any sign of weakness along the sprawling frontier. The empire's borders became impossible to defend, with too few men to cover too much ground. The military, once Rome's greatest strength, became its Achilles heel. Overstretch led to vulnerability, and vulnerability led to disaster. The cracks in the empire's armor were showing for all to see. Rome was no longer invincible. Its enemies could sense the change. The stage was set for disaster as the empire's military might begin to crumble from within. Empires aren't just built on legions. Behind every conquering army stands a complex web of resources, trade, and financial stability. They need a solid foundation of wealth, a steady stream of gold and silver to pay soldiers, build roads, and keep the wheels of government turning. But even the mightiest empires can be brought low by an empty treasury. When the money runs out, power quickly slips away. Endless wars drained Rome's coffers, as the costs of defending vast borders and funding military campaigns soared year after year. When conquest slowed, so did the flow of loot and tribute. The empire's income shrank, but its expenses only grew. Emperors debased the currency, mixing cheaper metals into silver coins. Inflation soared, savings evaporated, and the economy spiraled out of control. Imagine your wages suddenly buying almost nothing. Families struggled to afford bread, and daily life became a battle for survival. Trade suffered as merchants refused devalued coins, and trust in the economy collapsed. Markets quieted, a chilling sign of decline. Taxes rose, squeezing farmers, merchants, and the wealthy alike. Unrest and rebellion followed as people lost hope. The economic crisis weakened Rome's ability to wage war and govern, leaving leaders scrambling for solutions that never came. The empire's foundation was crumbling, its strength sapped from within. Rome became fragile, vulnerable to shocks both from outside invaders and from its own restless population. The economic disease spread everywhere, infecting every corner of society and every class of citizen. The mighty empire was now teetering, its future uncertain as the world watched its slow collapse. For centuries, tribes beyond Rome's borders, barbarians as Romans called them, were a constant pressure, always testing the strength of the empire's frontiers. These groups, with their own rich cultures and traditions, watched Rome's fortunes rise and fall from afar. But now, with Rome weakened by internal strife and external threats, they sensed opportunity like never before. Waves of Goths, Vandals, and Huns surged westward, driven by climate change, pressure from other nomads, and the lure of Rome's legendary wealth and fertile lands. The legions, depleted and demoralized after years of conflict and dwindling resources, struggled desperately to hold back the relentless tide. Cities were sacked, villages razed, and Rome's aura of invincibility, once the pride of the world, was shattered for all to see. In 410 CE, the Visigoths under Alaric sacked Rome itself, a blow so profound that the West never truly recovered from its shock. The final blow came in 476 CE, when Odoacer, a barbarian leader, deposed the last Western Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus. The Western Empire was no more, its throne left empty and its symbols of power abandoned. But Rome's fall wasn't a single event, it was a long, drawn-out process marked by decades of decline and uncertainty. Military overstretch, economic crisis, political instability, and relentless barbarian invasions all played their part in the unraveling of the empire. The empire's collapse, once unthinkable, became inevitable as its foundations crumbled. The ancient world had changed forever, and a new era was about to begin. So, there you have it. The rise and fall of Rome, a story of ambition, power, and decline. It's a cautionary tale about overreach, unstable economies, and underestimating your rivals. Yet Rome's legacy endures, in law, engineering, art, and language. Their influence still shapes our world. Want more AI-animated history? Like and subscribe, and tell us what you want to see next. Until next time, keep exploring the past.